Let's do this.
Here we go.
Let's get on to the real meat of it all. Dave Fennoy.
The meat.
Now, you know that Dave was Lee Everett in the Walking Dead game. It was a huge success. His voice acting was pointed out as really spectacular.
Yeah, just amazing. And of course, you guys know him from Dota 2. He was six
It's like
heroes.
7 characters.
Seven,
now,
yeah.
isn't it?
Well, one guy has 2 heads. I guess you count that as 7.
There you go.
But, Fallout New Vegas, StarCraft, I mean, on and on and on.
Yeah, World of Warcraft, he's actually got something big coming up right now. So
The
there you
voice
go.
of Hulu.
That's right. You hear him in front of every episode of anything you do. If you saw 4.5, I gave my best shot at it. The following presentation is brought to you by In the Booth. Sorry, Dave. So here he is, man, myth, legend, Dave Fennoy. Hey, everybody. As promised, we are sitting down with Dave Fennoy, a legend. We've already given you the rundown. Let's get right into it. We had some fan questions. We had stuff that we wanted to ask you.
Well, first off, we've got Saphira144, and I assume it's a she, asks Dave, what was your favorite role and why?
Wow. Well, I have to say right now that my favorite role was playing Lee Everett in the Walking Dead game. But there are some other roles that I've played that are still very close to my heart. Gabriel Tosh, Worlds of StarCraft, Vol'jin, Worlds of Warcraft, which I'm still being. General Pong Krell and Star Wars, The Clone Wars. And a bunch of...
It's kind of an endless list,
Yeah,
really.
on and on and on.
Yes, yeah.
But you'd say, Lee, obviously the game is just about over a year old now.
Yeah.
In fact, you and I sat and had dinner about a year ago in Fairfax.
Yes, we did.
After one of your sessions at Jory Prum Studio. Shout out to Jory and Julia.
Jory!
And Dave and I were sort of sitting and speculating, and already, of course, the TV show had become pretty much the monster it was. Now, Dave, again, you heard StarCraft, you've heard World of Warcraft, and really the list goes on and on. Bayonetta and Fallout New Vegas. So really, I mean, at this point, it was probably just another gaming role to you at that point.
Well,
right?
when I got the job, it was, I'm an actor, so whenever you get a job, you're like, hey, I got a job, woohoo! And they flew me up to Fairfax, where you fly into Oakland, and then take a... they had a limo for me.
Yeah, folks, don't get used to that, because when Eric and I go into Fairfax, there's no limo waiting for us.
So the limo picks me up, and they misspelled my name, which got my ego in check.
That's right, Mr. Fennoy.
And I thought it was just going to be another game, but no. The first thing I noticed looking at the script was it was real dialogue. In many games, what you're looking at, you have a series of greeting lines, a series of attacking lines, a series of taunting lines, a series of I've been hurt lines, and then all your yells and screams and death sounds.
Impact sounds.
Impact sounds. Yeah. And this wasn't that. This was actual dialogue and who you were talking to and what your relationship with that person was dictated how those lines came out. And that was something kind of new in the gaming world. And I knew it was going to be good. I had no idea that it was going to have the impact on the gaming industry that it's had.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, probably no one really knew just how big. I mean, I'm pretty sure Telltale probably didn't know, hey, we've got a Game of the Year on our hands when they started out. At the end, when they're filming you doing that last scene, we're not going to give any spoilers here, but the last scene in episode 5, you played through episode 5, right, Eric?
I have.
Okay. What were your impressions?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, there's a consistency throughout the game. So it kind of wasn't necessarily that 5 had anything different. It was the end, obviously. The point that the spoiler mention that you make is that no one wants to tell you that, but I was moved. I was moved, and I was shedding tears. So.
Yeah, clearly Dave was as well. I was considering showing that clip, and I may.
Huh. Well, it's been out there. If you want to show it, it's okay.
But I mean, just to give you folks an idea.
Me crying like a little baby.
Yeah, well, you and everybody else.
Hold on, I personally would like to say that is you crying like the actor portraying the character.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, you were supposed to be kind of losing it in the scene anyway.
And you know what? I lost it without trying to. You know, I had no idea that when I went in to do it that the actual tears and the feelings were going to come up. But they did, and out they came, and I just went with it.
Yeah, well, that's the sign of an actor.
But also, you had spent. I was trying to do the math. When do you remember what time of year that last session was?
Let's see. It was probably August or September.
So we're looking at a good 5 or 6 months you spent with this character.
Well, we started at the beginning of the year, so it was in January. So 7 or 8 months.
That's a long time, and especially, I mean, and again, I've joked before that those tears aren't necessarily just the emotion.
Oh no!
I'm almost out of a gig.
They
Right?
just handed Dave his last paycheck, you see. But I mean, before we go on, again, kudos, just an amazing job, an amazing game. I, along with many of the fans in our comment section and on a lot of the videos on YouTube, are clamoring for more Lee Everett.
Yeah, I get fan mail. They're trying to figure out how can we get Lee Everett back. I had a friend on Facebook. He sent me 6 or 7 different scenarios where it was a dream sequence, or this happened or that happened.
I like the Obi-Wan thing where he comes in and sort of guides Clementine as she moves
as a
on
ghost?
through assuming Clementine is still in season 2.
In Jedi form.
What else do we have from the fans, Eric?
Well, Mike P. wrote in asking about whether or not you went straight to voiceover and not on camera, and why, and things like that. Well, I honestly, you do on camera.
I do. On camera for me has more often than not been kind of by chance or accident. I have spent. I got into this business to do voiceover. I'd been a disc jockey before that. I'd been a musician. I was a disc jockey up in the San Francisco Bay Area on KSOL and KDIA and KRE.
I grew up listening to Dave, guys.
And working under the name Billy David Ocean. Yeah, I know.
Not the Caribbean Queen, Billy Ocean. Yeah. Who came first? You came first.
Well, I came first. Well, I don't know. He may have been Billy Ocean.
Yeah, but nobody knew who
he was. But nobody knew who he
Yeah.
was. But about 6 months after I was on the air as Billy Ocean, Caribbean Queen hit, and I would get calls, from people listening. Wow, hey. Billy Ocean, man, I like your record, dude. And like, it's not me. It's another guy named Billy Ocean. Another guy named Billy Ocean.
Wrap your head around that, dude.
How can you both have the same name, man? And I would say, well, what's your name? My name's Fred Johnson. Well, Fred, do you think someplace on the planet there might be another Fred Johnson?
They're like the Adam Harrington that's getting all my credits, including Walking Dead.
Just
How
so
you
he
doing
doesn't
there,
get
Adam?
the paychecks.
Exactly.
Well, we because we're talking about on camera, and I had my whole thing with the beard. I shaved it off, and now it's back because of an on camera part. I'm gonna have to challenge you. I watch Greg Miller up at noon.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Greg and the IGN staff.
Let's get into this, folks.
He proposed that you play Ezekiel the King, that is in the comic, and when he said it, I went, wow.
Yeah, ding.
It was right in my face, and I didn't even think about it myself.
Well, it's funny because it had kind of been mentioned before. A few fans had said, well, you look like Ezekiel, and you got the dreadlocks, so forth and so on. And then I get this email from Greg, and he goes, watch me pitch you to Robert Kirkman.
Nice work, Greg.
Nice work, Greg. Thumbs up. And now... Robert Kirkman, it's you and me, Robert Ezekiel. I hope Robert's not watching that.
I'm gonna make sure Robert is watching, Mr. Kirkman. That is.
I would love to do it. By the same notion, they're going to do what they're going to do.
I'm sorry, Dave, but I'm going to cut you off. Last night, I wasn't even aware of this until last night. Erik is much farther into the Walking Dead comics than I am. And I had no idea of the Ezekiel, the king thing, the guy with the tiger. And he showed me some photos, and I think they would be crazy.
But you need a beard,
to.
so we can start doing the beard growing meter for you as well. And we can see where that gets to, because I'm sure that this will come up. It's got to. They've got to call you.
I put in a call to Alec Baldwin, and he can teach me.
Right.
No, I think this has got to happen. I mean, the fan reaction to your Lee was almost unprecedented. I mean, again, the game as a whole was pretty much loved by all, as evidenced by all the awards, and personally the awards that you were up for and won. You and Melissa went to London for the BAFTAs, for God's sakes.
And we both thought each other would win. I thought she'd win. She thought I would win. And they gave it to some English guy.
But again, I have to keep reminding you, you won when you got a plane ticket to London and a hotel, and fans outside the hotel asking for it. That's the win, my friend.
Yeah, that was the win.
But, I mean, I'm sorry, they would be crazy not to consider this. Obviously, I've seen some of your on-camera work. I've seen you on Tosh.0, but I've also seen some of the independent projects you did. Clearly, you've got the chops. You've got the look. My theory is that Kirkman wrote this character for you already. I mean, the guy's got white dreads. He's a strong presence. And obviously, when you read the comic, what kind of voice came out of this guy's mouth?
Oh, absolutely.
A deep,
I honestly thought of your voice when I was reading it, but I
voice.
never put it together that they would have him on the show.
The instant you showed me this picture.
What say you, Robert?
All right, so you guys tell us in the comment section what you think.
Dave
Fennoy,
Robert Kirkman.
Dave Fennoy as Ezekiel, otherwise known as the King, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a natural fit, and that way we'll have a very super famous friend that we can bug and show up in the middle of the night and ask for loans. Let's make this happen, guys. Let's get a petition going. Kudos to Greg for really starting the ball rolling.
Here's one to Greg Miller.
Yes.
Absolutely. As I live and breathe. So Kaio Hikawa, I hope I got that right, asks, the question that a lot of folks, especially aspiring voice actors, want to know. How did you get into the business? How did the ball get rolling? How did you go from being Billy Ocean, the DJ, to this?
Wow. There's a long answer. There's a short answer. I'll try to give you the one that's kind of in the middle. For me, at the time, about early 80s, I was doing radio in the Bay Area, and a buddy of mine at KBLX, I was working on KRE at the time, was leaving the station, and hey man, where are you going? Usual thing. What you up to? And he goes, I'm going over to the city to do some voiceover. And he goes, yeah, I make more money doing that than I do on the radio. And and
ding,
I'm just going to record some commercials and blah blah blah. And that was kind of the first seed. I didn't do anything about it for 2 years. He told me I needed a demo tape and an agent and so forth, but it stuck there. And a couple years later, I started seriously pursuing voiceover. At the same time, I was creating my radio career and working my way up to being a morning drive announcer at KDIA and KSOL. But I was investigating voiceover. I took some classes with Samantha Paris, also one class with Lucille Bliss, who was the voice of Smurfette.
That was up there or down here?
That was up there. And in one of those classes, I also hustled quite a bit. I did some promos for TV 20 at the time, which was $25 an hour. I was became the voice of Marine World Africa USA concert series every summer.
I remember those spots.
I won a Jumbo Prawn Award for one of those Marine World Africa USA spots. You may dream of once in your lifetime going to the vast plains of Africa.
Do you remember those spots?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was my first spot that I did that I really like how I sound.
It feels right.
And it won an award.
The Golden
So
Drum
that
Award.
I had kind of decided that spinning records for teenagers wasn't going to be what I'd want to do for the rest of my life. And in 1990, KSOL fired the whole staff, and I had taken this class. The woman who taught the class, Lee Gilbert, had invited me to come to LA and be represented by an agency down here. And this a few months had gone by now, got fired, and
So the timing was really perfect.
I called her up and I said, Lee, were you serious? And she said, yeah, get yourself a new demo tape together and come on down here. So that was February. In May, I was coming down. But I also, I was doing this on a few fronts. A buddy of mine that had gone to high school with, John Kafka, was the cartoon director for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I called him up and said, hey, look, I'm trying to get in. He says, well, send me a tape. We'll see what we can do. And
The standard answer we get.
This was before I'd lost a gig at the radio station, and I created a demo for myself, an animation demo, Zoltan the Warrior. And I played Zoltan. I played his comical sidekick. I played the bad guy. I played the bad guy's heavy, a few other characters. I put in the sound effects, a whole battle and whatnot, and sent it to him. And he called me back and he says, I only told you to send me this because we go way back. We were in high school together. Thank God it was good.
Thank God you're good. I knew that was.
And so he turned it over to a few people, and I started getting auditions. Well, this is before I moved down. And 3 times I got auditions for animated series, and I would get in my car.
You were still living in the Bay
I
Area.
was still living in the Bay Area. The auditions were in L.A., and I would drive the 6 hours down to the audition, spend the 5 minutes doing the auditions, get back in my car, and drive home.
Just to clarify, nowadays we audition from home.
Yeah.
And Dave obviously auditions in style from home, but back then this is in.
This is 1990.
In fairness, you do some finished work right here.
Oh, well, I do 95% of all the work I do is here.
Right. Do you do the Hulu work here?
I do the Hulu work here.
That's quite a commute you have there.
Yeah, right downstairs into my studio.
So the obvious question is, how many times have you done those Hulu spots in your drawers?
Well, I take my work very seriously, so
It could be hot.
I always put on clothes to work. Hey, why does everybody think you got a home studio? Oh, he's working in his pajamas. No,
I've done auditions in my drawers. I've done
but-
auditions in my drawers.
I respect the craft. I take a shower, brush my teeth, get my coffee, then come to work downstairs.
His coffee and his Dave Fennoy coffee
My
mug.
Dave Fennoy cup, yeah. Which can be yours.
No, trust me, I'm going to put a link at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, we'll put links and everything.
Before we move on, and I promise you, I'm not going to monopolize the interview, but I do have a follow up. I have a follow up to that. Now, you said you made the demo specifically character stuff for TMNT, Teenage Mutant. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was for my buddy who was the cartoon director of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
But when you first started jumping in, what did you envision yourself doing mostly? Did you envision yourself doing commercial? Did you envision yourself doing character?
Well, I envisioned myself actually doing commercials and some cartoons. Really and truly, I hadn't really planned out exactly what I was going to do or how I was going to do it. I basically knew I wanted to do voiceover work, that it could be lucrative, and it was something that I enjoyed. And I was open to everything. And consequently, over my career, I've been able to do everything. I've had people that advised me that TV promos, because I was coming out of radio, was the way to go. I did TV promos because I was interested in cartoons and had been since a kid. I also did animation, which also led me into games. I also, if I weren't doing what I'm doing, I might be a history professor someplace. So I've done narration for National Geographic and Discovery Channel and Science Channel, those kinds of things.
You're one of the rare narrators that actually knows what they're talking about when they're narrating.
Well, I learn a lot too when I do that, and that's one of the joys of doing that type of narration is you do learn the material that you're reading. And lately, I've completed 2 audiobooks. I'm working on my 3rd. There was a time I said I would never, ever do that, but I found that I enjoyed it. And
It's a lot of work.
it's a lot of work. But to me, it all falls under the umbrella of voiceover work. And if I can do it and I enjoy it, hey, why not?
Amen. But I mean, I guess really where I was going was where you are now. Dave is obviously a full-time voice actor. He makes a very comfortable living doing voiceover. But what I found is a lot of folks that get into this business, me for instance, I got into it because I was doing telemarketing and I had a big deep voice and everybody said you should be in radio. And I just took that as all-encompassing, I sound like a big radio guy. So I took some voiceover classes and immediately found out that what I enjoy doing more than just announcing and narrating is doing funny things with my voice and making characters.
Yeah.
So I went into it with one idea and have come out the other end, the completely other end of voiceover.
Well, that happens to you occasionally when I teach or guest teach. One of the things I tell prospective voiceover talent is you have an idea about who you are and what you're going to do. The industry, though, will have an idea about who you are and what you're going to do. And you may be going in this direction and the industry decide that this is the direction you're going to go in over here. I've been able to do some of everything. But right now, if I had to say the industry was calling me in any direction, it would be as game voice. And certainly I have no intention of giving that up, but I still do TV promos. I still do commercials. I still end up with crazy voices on commercials. I'm still going to do narration.
Well, essentially we do what they send us to do, and we audition, and what we get sticks.
Yeah.
But also keep in mind, Dave, you were the voice of Showtime at the Apollo for many years.
For about 15 years, every year with the NAACP Image Awards, I was the voice of that. And that was one of my proudest gigs, something I looked forward to every year. Showtime at the Apollo for, 12, 15 years. Showtime at the Apollo.
Again, I watched after Saturday Night Live. Had no idea that it was Billy Ocean, who I grew up with. Now I was listening to on Showtime at the Apollo. So what do you got?
Oh, geez. I wanted you to take a minute just to give us a little peek inside what it's like to have the golden handcuff. When you say you do stuff, Hulu here, and you're like, well, I do a ton of it here. I just go into my studio and I do that. I mean, what is that like for you? Do you feel like you have less time? And you know what I mean? Like right now, I don't have those demands, so I can leave during the day.
Yeah, we can come down to LA to interview.
But you're kind of on call all the time, really, right?
I am, and yet I find time. I'll go to lunch with a buddy or something, or
it's like any job.
Like any job, I take time off, especially in the last 8-10 months or so. I've been doing quite a bit of traveling thanks to The Walking Dead.
That's true.
And I have a portable studio. So especially for Hulu, I take that portable studio with me, and if they've got something they need, they get it.
So if you're a beginner, you could almost start with a portable studio until you're ready to set up with something bigger.
Well, it's a lot cheaper to set up a studio nowadays. The things you have to be concerned with are a quiet room and a room that doesn't bounce sound. And one of the best places for that is a closet with clothes in it.
That's right.
And there are microphones that can plug into your iPad, your iPhone, and there are all kinds of ways to get a decent sound, to get your auditions out there, or even some limited work. There's some things you don't want to do unless you're in a bona fide studio.
Right.
But if it's, simple auditions, simple, just normal voice, without a lot of screaming, not too hard to do when you're on the road.
Can you give us a Hulu guy? The following presentation is brought to you by In the Booth.
Oh, nice. Yes.
The following presentation is brought to you by In the Booth. The following presentation is brought to you by In the Booth. The following presentation is brought to you by In the Booth.
I love
All right.
Now we're going to use that every episode for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
End up sending Dave residuals.
Well, the reason I'm so fascinated with the handcuff kind of thing, doing the studio work where you actually have a decent setup at home and you're doing that, is you actually, I guess, were buddies, but one of my heroes as well, Don LaFontaine.
Oh, yeah.
May he rest in peace.
Picture.
There's a picture right over here of you with him, and I always thought it was amazing just the fact that he would talk about, well, here's my day, and he goes into this little studio they had set up, and really it was just room for him and a mic, and he was doing all the inner worlds and all the on ABC.
He never did ABC.
Well, right, not ABC, but
NBC, CBS.
Right, every other network,
Fox, but not ABC. Don was a great guy, and he is missed. He was a workingest actor in SAG, did more than 5,000 movie trailers, and as great as he was as a talent, he was an even better human being. And Don used to go from job to job in a limousine before the
I've seen the videos,
and with his driver, Clinton, who I'm still friends with. Clinton is up in Seattle now, I think. So Don would go from job to job in a limousine, not because he was highfalutin and I'm Don LaFontaine, but just for time. There wasn't time to park or find a parking space. And this way he could fit in the 12 to 20 jobs a day that he had.
12 to 20 jobs a day.
Now, obviously, this is because tech wasn't where it's at now.
Yeah, but when tech changed and home studios became the thing.
I'll bet he was on the cutting edge. He was the first guy
with a home studio. I don't think he was the first guy with a home studio, but he was one of the earlier guys with a home studio, and
probably a T-line, right?
Built ISDN.
I don't know what that technology was. I'm pretty sure he had an ISDN line, but he put in a studio in his basement, and it was a real nice studio, not fancy, but it certainly did the job.
That's all it takes. We don't need to be pretty.
He's missed. He was just a great guy.
Well, I mean, clearly an inspiration. Earlier, I talked about what was, when you got into the business, what were your visions? And, of course, me and every other, at least deep voice guy, we want to be a movie trailer guy. And Don is the first guy we think of, even if we didn't know what he looked like.
He's the voice you hear in your head when you think movie trailers.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since then, I've learned that there are maybe, 10 guys who really do this for a living.
Yeah, and that's more than there were when he was doing it. He was doing at least half of the work, and at sometimes I think he was doing like 75-80% of the work. And once again, it still culturally, his voice is the voice you hear in your head when you think about movie trailers.
And not just movie trailers, but voiceover.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I liked about Don, and I know you do a little bit of that too, is the shifting of, you talk about whether or not you do character and video game voices and all this, but when you're doing just promo work and things like that, they'll say, well, this one's for football, so give me some testosterone,
Yeah.
And this one's for whatever. And Don actually talked about that he had at least 3 levels that he always used. There was the, in a world, right?
Yeah.
And then he would do in a world, because he did what he called chainsaw.
Yeah.
Right? He did in a world where these guys are terrible people. and then he did almost the Disney, although there was the guy who did, opening the Disney vaults, right?
Yeah.
But
Mark Elliott.
Right. And Don did the coming right now. He actually had one of those, and you say, well, that's still Don's voice. That's Don. No, but that's like 3 shades of Don.
Yeah.
And I know you do some of that too.
There were shades, and but still, Don was always identifiably Don.
Yeah.
And
yeah, when I heard him, I'd be like, oh, there's Don.
Yeah, and that was his voice. I mean, he wasn't putting anything on. That was his voice.
Did he get to the point where he didn't audition anymore? It was just get me Don LaFontaine?
Well, you know what? I wish he were here to ask him that. I doubt that he had to do a whole lot of auditioning.
I'm guessing.
You know, when you're doing that many movie trailers and promos for networks, and you're making $20,000-$30,000 a day.
You heard right, kids.
Yeah, that I don't know that necessarily exists anymore. There's not the one guy who's really killing it like
And
that.
there probably never will be.
Which is good, I guess, for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
It
yeah.
gives us a shot.
And as a matter of fact, they're not using as many voices on trailers, period, nowadays.
I noticed
Yes.
that.
Yes, they show you a lot of action shots
So
and then one
basically,
thing.
oh, Don's gone. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just
Right,
can't have
right.
voices on trailers anymore.
And you never hear women, that's for sure, too, which is kind of sad.
Well, there's that movie that girl was doing. It was about. It's called In a World.
In a world, yeah.
Oh, right. That's his daughter.
Like
right?
Bell. No.
So you just got back from your very first appearance, which Eric and I are now old hat at. Your first appearance at an esports event, a Dota 2 competition.
Oh man.
I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I was blown away. I play 6 characters in Dota 2.
Let's name them.
Oh God.
I know most of them.
Jakiro, Faceless Void, Huskar, Bat Rider, Skeleton King, and
The Dragon. Jakiro, you already said.
and there's another one whose name is
Faceless Void.
No, he's got
I mentioned Faceless Void.
Anyways, you know what? I'm going to edit that. We're just going to do it anyway. So this was your first time really getting a taste of what's going on in the esports world.
I was amazed. I'm not really a gamer myself. I love being a voice on games, but I'm not a player. And I had no idea that this was... I'd heard rumors that people were playing for competition and they had teams and whatnot. But when you're there at the event, the Dota World Championships, it's like you're on ESPN.
Yeah.
They've got announcers and there's Jakaro and he's out again. Oh, what a move! And I'm looking at them like, how do they see all that?
Yeah.
You've got the play-by-play going. The whole it was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah, you know, Eric, for some reason there's not a lot of crossover with Dota 2 and League of Legends, but, you know, obviously they're very similar games. And Eric had to kind of walk me through our first appearance because there are these giant screens that I'm sure you remember.
Huge.
And these guys are shouting, and you don't know what they're shouting about, and then all of a sudden the audience will just explode, and you're saying, what happened? I'd go over to Eric, like, you know, like your grandpa in the movie, what did he say?
Yeah. I'm watching the same thing they're watching.
Yeah.
How come I didn't see it?
But yeah, no, some of the numbers were broken down for me. Esports had more viewers than all of Major League Baseball last year, and it's doing nothing but growing. So,
you know, and I think that speaks to where gaming is going. Quiet as it's kept, the gaming business pulls in more dollars than the movie business and the music business combined. And it's almost, depending on what age you are, how aware of the gaming business you are.
Well, the gaming business made a major change. I have a friend of mine who I got into the business with when I was doing work in games behind the scenes, and he said it was that darn Final Fantasy VII. The weekend it released, it beat out the box office, whatever the top of the... They forget to mention that it was G.I. Jane.
oh, right.
but it made more money, and that's when it went from a very laid back situation in a studio to, I guess, for lack of better terms, very corporate. Like suddenly people were like, "Hey, there's some money to be made in these games."
The minute the money comes into play, then the CEO's ears start perking up.
Well,
But still, culturally, there is an age shift. At about 40 and above, people aren't as aware of games. 40 and below, they are aware of games. And in the news media, the only time we hear about the gaming industry is when some crazed shooter kills a bunch of people, and the gaming industry is blamed for sickening the mind of the shooter.
Right. And you know, I have been a gamer since the Atari 5200, and I've played some of the worst Grand Theft Auto and this and that, and I can tell you firsthand that I've never after a round of GTA felt the urge to run out and rob a bank.
It's a specious argument anyway. Think of the number of kids with cap guns. I know when I was growing up, I had the cap guns. I played Army, I had Cowboys and Indians, the whole thing.
Oh, we used to have BB gun fights.
Yeah. But never, ever did I have a desire to,
Freak out, yeah.
Let me go shoot a bunch of people. That would be fun.
Right.
I think we need to turn an eye on ourselves and our parenting, but that gets into political stuff, and and again, it is our business, so maybe we aren't the best, least.
No, we are. We really are. We are the best. Listen to us.
We know what we're talking about. But so yeah, you experienced that the first time. Trust me, there will be more, and it will get bigger and bigger and bigger.
I think the gaming industry, as big as it is now, is just getting started in where it's actually going to go.
Well, it seems that there's more and more events that are going to be for fans and players of the game. Now we have cons that have tournaments at the same time. So there's a lot of that stack up of, there's a cosplay contest. There is, all this. And you were at Comic-Con this year.
Yes, I was.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was there for Walking Dead and signed autographs and said hello and took a lot of pictures. And it was a first time. Actually, the first time was going up to be at Beyond's 300th episode, Greg Miller's thing at IGN.
Oh, right, up at noon, yeah.
And my girlfriend and I are walking up to the door, and there's this line, and people started clapping. And,
that's great that she was there too. You see, honey.
And we both look around to see, well, who could be coming up? But it was for me. And it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling, and I think we're in a world now where game voices are going to start to become more celebrities than they have been,
or at least notice.
Yeah, I'm waiting on somebody to come up. Hey, let's get Dave Fennoy and Troy Baker and do a buddy game.
Nolan North.
Let's get him in there.
So everybody can be the lead.
Yeah, Erik and I are happy to be the silly sidekick if you want to throw us in there. That actually brings me.
Tara Strong and
that brings me to my next question, which is, Erik and I are Bay Area voice actors right now. We're in a smaller market. There's always, the lure of coming down here, but also kind of the fear of coming down here, letting go of our security, of our regular clients up there. And we know that it is the competitive level just gets hyper extended out here. But we look up. You mentioned Nolan North and you yourself and some of the bigger titles and bigger games that we kind of aspire to get to, and are getting there. And we're getting some developers up north like Telltale that are helping us get there. But when you were starting out, other than Don, we know Don was, but who are some of the other folks that you looked up to and said, okay, I want to get where that guy is?
You may not know the name Percy Rodriguez.
I don't.
Was one of my heroes.
What
for
did
years, Percy Rodriguez was a black actor. He had been in a lot of the so-called blaxploitation films of the 70s, but in the 80s, he was the voice of Pacific Bell.
Okay.
And he also did a lot of movie trailers for horror movies. And he was just a voice that I looked up to. He was one of my heroes. He was somebody whose career I had aspired to emulate.
Had you met him?
Never met him.
Huh?
Never had the chance.
Did he pass?
I believe he's gone.
But I mean, and maybe not necessarily the actor itself, but the genre. Now, obviously, as I said, it seems to me that most people who haven't taken any classes yet, who just say, "I want to be a voice actor," they jump right to the Don LaFontaine stuff. I want to be that guy that does. Well,
it's funny. I've heard a lot of people who want to get into voice acting, and they forget about their own voice all too often.
Yes.
And they want to take on the persona of some other voice actor, Don being one of them.
I guarantee you somewhere they want to be Dave.
Yes.
And my best advice to anybody is really get into who you are. What that person listening really wants is to connect. And what we tend to connect with is what is real.
Right. I mean, and you know, bringing that back to the video games, you know, I built your reel, so I've heard a lot of your character work. I've heard a lot of the more broad stuff, and I've heard a lot of the more intimate stuff. I found that Jed Masterson is kind of similar to Lee, but really, I gotta say, out of all your characters, the closest, because I've been lucky enough to spend some time with you over the last couple of years, and just you and I, when we're talking, the closest character I found is Lee.
Yeah, well, it really was. I mean, I didn't have to put on any kind of voice. There was no accent, no anything. Lee Everett really was just my voice taking on his emotions.
Now, how much of that was just that's the character you found when you auditioned, and how much of it was, holy mackerel, I've got 10,000 lines to do. I better not pick a voice that's going to be really difficult to do.
No, when I auditioned, when I got the audition, they said, hey, look, we're just looking for a guy. He's a black guy. He's of a certain age. He was a college professor. He was on his way to jail where he found his wife having an affair and kills her and the lover, and feels like his life is at an end. And we want it we want this a very real character. And I just took those lines, didn't do anything to my voice, just took on the emotions that I might have if I were doing that, and that's what booked it.
Can you play a sleeping dog? Because we have got the sound effects right now. So, first of all, thanks for taking the time and inviting us in, because I'm telling you, this is a beautiful studio you've got here. And
yeah, this was an amazing experience for us.
Great dogs and and a lovely wife, lovely and beautiful wife. But
thank you, Mo.
So, yes, thank you, Mo. What are your future aspirations for what you have right now? I mean, where do you want to go?
Well, you know, I'd like to continue doing just what I've been doing.
That's a sign of a successful man.
You know, just more so. I have things that I want to do, more animated series, regular parts in some cartoons, and I'd like to expand what I'm doing to animated movies.
Yeah.
You know, there's
Pixar.
They tend to use name actors and celebrities. I see no reason why they shouldn't.
Well, I think we should put it forward that you are
you are
actor
now. Yeah, you are now a celebrity, my friend.
I
Whether
really
you like it or
think that
not.
DreamWorks and Pixar and Disney, the Disney and Pixar.
Did you hear that? DreamWorks and Pixar.
Please,
Especially
call this guy.
after we get you on the TV show The Walking Dead as the king, which we will do, right, folks? Comments? Dave Fennoy.
Petition.
As
Start
the
a
king.
petition.
Let's
That's
get
what we
this
need to
going.
do.
Greg started it. We're going to finish it. Let's get him on the show, guys.
So to wrap things up, I wanted to get from you, could you cover the couple of tips? I know you mentioned be yourself.
Yeah.
And you also
No matter
have...
how many selves that might be.
You do. You have a section in Secrets of Voiceover Success, the book by Joan Baker, and,
Right.
and your section you talk about the rule number 14 was.
Well, you have to know who you are and who you're talking to, what your relationship with that person is. I think a lot of people that pick up a piece of copy never think about those kinds of things. But how you talk to your mom is different than how you talk to your boss, is different than how you talk to the person you love, is different than how you talk to a child or your grandma or some stranger on the street or somebody that you feel is above you or below you, different than how you speak to your buddies.
Class,
so
yeah.
you need to really define what the relationship is with whoever it is you're communicating with. And oftentimes it's a matter of going, oh, well, who am I talking to?
Right.
Who is the prototypical person in the demographic that this message is trying to reach? And if you know somebody like that, put that face in front of you and talk to that face. Find out who you are. I do an exercise or suggest an exercise with prospective voiceover talents. Sit in a room with just some friends. Turn on the recorder, forget about it, and just let your conversation carry on. Go back and listen to what you sound like. Bring that to your reads. Bring the real you to you. All too often, people pick up a piece of paper, and once they've picked up that piece of paper, now they're getting into some kind of crazy. And it's okay to be able to do voices, but even there, bring some reality. Bring your real heart, your real mind to that voice, to that character. Be as many dimensional as you can be in a character, as opposed to that one dimension.
Well, I mean, and that's one thing that I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's even more of a challenge for someone who's been broadcasting to the masses to make that transition. Because
It is. It's one of the things I worked on quite a bit in transitioning from radio into voiceover. And one of the reasons that my agents and people I took classes from said, well, the first thing you should work on are promos, because that's the closest thing to a radio read.
Right.
And that was true. And one of the things you kind of have to develop for yourself if you've come out of radio is the realization that you were playing a character in radio. Because when you're in radio and you're doing this guy,
you even had a character name, Billy Ocean.
Billy David Ocean, 107.7 KSOL.
That's broadcasting to the masses, folks.
And that's broadcasting to the masses. But in voiceover, the majority of people who work are not former disc jockeys, they're actors. So you want to be an actor.
Well, especially like in The Walking Dead. I mean, when you're doing those scenes with Clem, it certainly isn't, hello, Clementine.
Well, that's going to go to something I kind of wanted to do a little tip and trick on is proximity. It's how close you are to the mic, and in my world, it has two meanings. The other is how far away is my character from the person they're talking to.
Oh yeah.
So, some games, a lot of games, now they have one range you're doing it at. They're just like...
And I still do those games. There's still those games that once you have decided on the voice of this character and, the level of anger or whatever, that it's a one-trick pony right there all the time.
Well,
and
Dota 2, Dota 2, you're not farther away or closer or intimate.
Right,
Right. It's all the same.
And those lines could be said to anybody in the game. I'm up against you, I'm going to kill you, and it doesn't matter who you are, as opposed to this is my ex-wife and there's a special kind of hate, or this is...
I like how you ex-wife and I'm going to kill you in the same sentence.
Well...
We're trying to tell people we're not making them go out and kill people.
No. I'm just saying that,
I know.
And you've seen this in the detective shows where somebody's been just brutally butchered, and the detective, well, this was somebody that really had a lot of hate for this person. Right. There are little clues in that there, as opposed to somebody who puts a bullet in your head from 1,000 yards away.
Yeah.
Great point.
There is. Well, Dave, I guess that's kind of it. We don't want to.
So we end on put a bullet in your head
from
1,000 yards.
No, I did not. Hey, by the way, a good favorite Scotch lately?
Oh well, the Balvenie is still my thing. I love the Balvenie and a good cigar.
Oh, any particular brands
of cigars? No, I'm not really a cigar aficionado. I have some very good friends that are, and always show up with the right stuff. So, we'll drink the Balvenie and smoke cigars and talk.
Dave, seriously though, we want to thank you for allowing us into your home and into your studio. It's really an honor and a privilege, but also a huge learning experience for Erik and I. I mean, not to get too gushy or anything, but we do look up to you, and we do want to be like you when we grow up. And
careful what you wish for.
and again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Dave, with as much success as he's seen in his career, has all the right in the world to just be a complete asshole to us, because most guys would be. But no, he's gone above and beyond to be cool and welcoming and kind of guide and mentor us. And it means a lot to both of us. So
It really
My
does.
pleasure.
salud.
It's time to wake the dogs.
Salud.
Oh. One more take. I didn't drink and it's bad luck.
That is.
Salud.
Salud.
Skål.
Skål.
Great job.
Cool.
Dave, you're so sexy.
Okay. You ever seen a grown man naked?
You
Okay.
ever wonder why they call it a cockpit?
Come back and finish this, Lee.
It's over.
Lee.